Adulting is hard, but it wasn't supposed to be easy. Leadership is not influence. Leadership is not authority. We've unpacked all that. You could be an influencer, influence people for good, for bad, without being a leader. You can have authority given to you without being a leader. A leader is somebody who knows the way. They see it clearly. They personally go the way, and they show others the way. Leadership is hard, just like adulting is. Andrew, here we are back in the studio.
That's right. Welcome back to Hanging with the Hoopers podcast. Andrew and Tim Hooper, your host. Tim, thanks for that. Adulting is hard. I can't tell you the amount of times I'm driving back from Baltimore, Washington, D.C. home, and, good little hour and a half drive. And I think, man, do you ever just wish that you would go back to the days of childhood when life was simple? Your pants showed up in your drawer, your laundry. You didn't even know how they got there. It was a struggle to get through.
I just had a flashback, though. I did just have a flashback.
On what?
Of our friend whose mom actually ironed his underwear. Do you remember that?
I do. I mean, talk about going the extra mile.
Going the extra mile for her
Good
son.
for mom.
Wow.
But we have these thoughts at times, right? Man, we do. We're like, take me back to childhood when things were easy.
Adulting shouldn't have to be that hard, by the way.
We think adulting shouldn't have to be that hard, but it is. And so as you're listening to this podcast, do us a favor and drop in the comments of the podcast.
Yes.
One thing that you think is hard about adulting.
Yes.
And it's funny. Like, I think this applies, why are we talking about adulting on a leadership podcast? Because we've all had leaders, or we've seen situations come up in organizations where leadership wasn't necessarily doing adulting well. Right. And we kind of got caught up in childish things. So we're going to unpack this a little bit today. I'm excited for it. I think it's a very relatable idea. And I'm sure everyone listening has moments where you're like, oh yeah,
yes,
I've had this happen to me. Or maybe you look back in your leadership career and you're like, man, I've matured since that happened that I was involved in. Right. So Tim, where are we taking this?
It's, I think it's realizing that leadership is the willingness to step up to the plate, to understand that there's going to be tough stuff. I think the word hard, is kind of gets going, oh, it's hard. Kind of we have that like spin on it in our minds, right? Lazy, I don't want to do something. It's too hard, I'm going to quit. Sometimes hard means I don't know how. Sometimes hard means it's tough and I'm scared to do it. Right. It's not hard doesn't always mean the opposite of lazy. Hard sometimes just means it's something I got to go learn. It's something I don't know how to do yet. So as a leader, or being a leader, requires us to step up to that plate of hard and embrace it. Courageously embrace it.
Right.
And realize that leadership carries with it a lot of responsibility. Right? I think leadership exposes people who think they're leaders and aren't. Because leadership will absolutely demand. Leadership is its own bar. It demands you take responsibility for yourself and for others. And when you don't, it literally exposes you. So be careful that you don't envy a place of leadership without being willing to go put in the hard work, the effort it takes to grow yourself.
So let's talk about that. I can't count how many times I've been asked by former employees or people that I was training, back in my career in banking. And they've asked, hey, Andrew, like, what does it take to be successful? What does it take to be a leader in this company? How do I get promoted? How do I do this? How do I do that? And my answer was always the same. Do your job well, your job responsibilities, and start looking for ways to do the things that pertain to the next job before you have the title.
Wow.
That's adulting.
Wow.
That's adulting at work.
Right.
I think in today's environment, and I'm a millennial, right? Our father raised us in a way that was extreme with work ethic. I mean, we didn't like it when we were under the gun, but I think as we got out into the business world, we learned to appreciate that a little bit.
Right.
And so I don't take that for granted. I know as many people have not been afforded that opportunity to kind of, and thank God you weren't, because it was tough, but you have to understand that there's no easy button for success.
Right.
If you're in an organization, you want to be promoted to leadership, Tim, to your point, just skating by, doing the bare minimum while thinking, well, I have this degree or I have this or I have that, so I should be, no. Like at the end of the day, it's never about a piece of paper or about what you think you're worth on a piece of paper. It's where the rubber meets the road. Is it merit based? Are you actually achieving a result
Right.
based on merits of what you do?
Yes.
And I think for a lot of the younger generation, just managing many folks through my career, you kind of start grouping folks into buckets in your mind when you lead them. Okay, so this is the person that takes initiative. This is the person that executes on the job.
Yes.
This is the person that comes in and allows distractions to take them over and focuses more on playing in the workplace or doing this or doing that than actually executing on the job role.
Right.
And then when it comes down to opportunities, they're, like, why am I not getting this opportunity? Mm-hmm. Well, you got to grow up at work.
I'm going to go somewhere. Okay. I'm just going to dig in what you said. Okay. I love that you said somebody who takes initiative or somebody who just kind of plays on the job. You have companies nowadays bringing in some of this gamification approach. They're like building gamification into their training modules,
right,
into, maybe some of their leadership advancement modules. I don't know. It's just this whole gamification idea is that the younger generation, Gens, I don't even like calling them by Gen Z, millennials, just younger folks are more computer game savvy. That's what they're into. They'll spend hundreds of hours doing it. They're lazy, which I don't know if I agree with the word lazy. I think all of us like to do something. We have productivity built into us, like in our DNA. We want to accomplish something. It's just sometimes we get bored if we don't find what we're doing interesting.
Right.
So it's how do you uninterest somebody out of video games and into work? Are our corporations who lean into the gamification doing the next generation of leaders a disservice by instead not educating them about the downfalls or some of the limitations maybe possibly of a gaming culture? Are we capitulating? Are we over gamifying things? You tell me. I mean, I'm looking at Meta right now and thinking about some of the metaverse sorts of things we're going to be doing. I was thinking about my daughter who wants to be a nurse. She will probably do brain surgery in the metaverse before she ever does it on somebody's brain. I think that's a good use possibly of the metaverse.
Right.
But it's also kind of scary to think about.
Yeah.
So talk to some of us traditionalists. I'm a millennial and I'm a baby boomer's body, or I'm a baby boomer in a millennial's body, thanks to the extreme work ethic that instilled in us.
Both of us, right?
But do you know where I'm going? Like, let's unpack that a little bit. Let's have some fun here and go there.
Personally, I don't think anything's wrong with gamification. I just think that if that's what you're building your entire culture around, then you might want to check yourself. It's more for my advice here, or my coaching would be to the worker coming up in the environment of a gamified culture. Like, okay, that's cool. You earn points, you get cash back, or you earn perks for doing your job. That's cool. But it kind of goes back to the podcast we did on like rewarding and recognition and appreciation, right? If you appreciate someone for doing their job, is that going to be too much? Are they going to stop doing it? I don't think so. I think if you appreciate someone for doing their job well, it's important.
Versus
but I would challenge this mindset and kind of tying it back to the whole quiet quitting environment that we're seeing now. Now that's morphed into quiet firing, right? So I know all these things constantly, a new term for everything, but it's been happening for forever. I think at the end of the day, you want to know a secret to success in today's environment more now than ever. Show up, do your job well, and look for ways to go above and beyond. Mm-hmm. I think many ways to do that. I'll just give you a very real example. You show up to work as an employee. You might have a leader that's not the best communicator, and they kind of lay into the whole team about something that hasn't been going on. Well, I've been a part of these circles both as an employee, and I've been a part of them both as a leader with employees. And you have employees that go afterwards like, can you believe they're yelling at us about this? We're actually doing it. They just want some box checked where they want this thing done. And like, this is dumb, blah, blah, blah. And it's all that. Who in that group is going to stand up and say, guys, sure, I feel that same way. But at the end of the day, if we're doing it, let's make sure we're checking the box.
Yeah.
If we're, it's a fail safe. So to me, you want to get promoted, you start becoming that kind of a peer, where you don't allow the drama just to fester. You step up and become the adult in the room with a bunch of your peers that are complaining about something. And you're able to recognize that even if the leader did a great job articulating it or not, and there's still that complaining going on.
Yeah.
Do you want to be super well liked, or do you want to do you want to grow yourself? Growing yourself means you don't just succumb to the peer pressure of everyone else complaining about stuff, and you actually try to wrap your head around, well, okay, why is leadership asking for this? Or why are we being asked to do it this way? How can I align my efforts to that vision?
Yeah.
And you step up in that room and say, guys, we just got to be better. Think about the sports culture. The player on the team, they're not the coach. They may not be the captain of the team.
Right.
But they'll stand up and be like, guys, we got to be better. That effort was bad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what were we doing out there in the first half?
Yep.
You know, it was horrible. That is peer accountability. You want to stand out as a young person looking to become a leader? I know we're classifying young people. I kind of have a problem with that too in my head because age is not really a factor here.
It's really not. It's really not.
When we talk about age in this, I want to talk about age in this more as a mindset, not so much a number.
God, I love that you called that out.
Are you maturing?
The up and coming workforce, right?
Yeah.
The up and coming young professionals.
Do you think that you want to become a leader?
Right.
Well, it's going to take a lot more out of you than just showing up and doing your job.
Right.
And it's going to take you getting uncomfortable. So I've always been that kind of person where I say, hey, challenge the status quo. My job is not to be liked by my peers. Can I tell a story?
Yeah, you can.
I know I've been talking for a little bit, but I'm going to tell the story, and then you chime in and bring us home.
Tell the story.
So for those of you who don't know, Tim and I grew up in Germany. Long story there. But after moving back to the States, we still had some family members over there. I had an opportunity for a summer to go back over to Germany and live. And I worked for, get ready, this brand is going to blow your mind. I had an opportunity to work for Taco Bell.
Wow.
But not any Taco Bell. It was the only one in Germany on the military base
on
there.
The base.
And it was the busiest Taco Bell in the world. I'm talking a couple hundred people in line out through the food court into the mall every lunch because it was the only one there. So any military members from the U.S. stationed in Germany, when they would come to that base, they would come to Taco Bell because every other base had the Popeyes and had the Charlie subs or whatever.
Popeyes.
But people would come to Taco Bell. Well, I was young, 17 at the time, and I was just there for the summer.
Real quick, I got a timeout, just real quick.
Yeah.
Do you remember we're living over there when the soldiers would bring us like marshmallows?
Yes.
Or like
MREs.
Lucky Charms.
Right.
Because we couldn't get those on the German economy.
Peanut butter, pickles.
Jiffy, peanut butter. Like they would bring us that stuff. Anyway, back to the Taco Bell. You're 17.
So working there, and they put me at the front of the line. Well, there were grown spouses of military members working there with me, and they would intentionally mess up orders because they thought it was funny. So if someone get a taco, they'd put the taco in the big burrito shell, put way more beans than you're supposed to, and they'd intentionally
We've all heard the horror stories.
Here's the thing,
Taco Bell.
I was a little intense. I still am intense, but back then I was a little more intense.
You had a lot to prove.
Hey, but I would get kind of like, guys, I stood up in those moments. Guys, what are we doing? Right? We're busy. This just creates confusion for the person wrapping stuff and passing out because we think it's something different than what it is.
Right.
It's not efficient. And I had a few friends on the team that saw it the same way I did, but my goal wasn't to be liked. My goal was, hey, you're making everyone's job harder when you're just playing around on the job. When there's 200 people in line and you're making the poor cashier look bad in the front.
Right.
I was 17.
There wasn't room for that.
That resulted in them being like, hey, Andrew, after a month, we want to make you a manager. I couldn't stay in Germany more than 3 months.
Visa.
Thank God it turned out better, right? But at the end of the day, I tell that story for one simple fact because it articulates what we're talking about here is being an accountable peer accountability.
Beautiful.
In a moment where you're not trying to be liked by everyone. So do you want to be liked by your peers? Well, you're going to be like the people you hang around. If you're always at work or your job playing, you're not going to see those opportunities for advancement. So again, that's a very long diatribe. I hope you all stuck with me through that.
No, let's not call it a diatribe, bro. Let's not call it a diatribe at all.
All right,
what that is a powerful example of doing the little things right. You saw 200 people as your responsibility. Somebody else didn't.
Right.
And that's the whole point. Leadership accepts responsibility. Leadership does the hard thing when it's not popular. Leadership does what might make some of your team upset, but it's the right thing. And hopefully, as we go as leaders, we say it in the right way. Our tone isn't as intense, right, to your point. And I've been there before.
Oh, trust me, I made many mistakes in that environment, yeah.
Scared everybody on the team because I was insanely upset about something, but it did move us all forward. But I had to go back and
mend some fences.
And I didn't have to get that aggressive. My tone could have been much more relaxed, much more matter of fact, and just said, listen, this is an absolute standard we cannot cross. They're our responsibility. We're going to do an efficient job here. Yes, we can have fun and high five and maybe have some mantras we say around here and let the customer know we're enjoying ourselves and having a fun time. Because we all know driving up to that drive-through where everyone's stressed inside is no fun either for the consumer.
Right.
It's like, oh, I just placed an order and made you all stressed. We all feel bad about that, right? You should make people feel so good, even if you're totally just...
Good job, Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
They make people feel good, right? My pleasure.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, I do have one quick confession, talking about gamification. But I guess since I was the consumer in this regard, it was okay. But I was driving through McDonald's the other day and taking the 4 kids out for breakfast on Saturday. And they're like, Daddy, order a Whopper. I'm like, okay. I was just like, I wasn't even thinking. And they start laughing. They're like, no, a Whopper. I'm like, okay. I mean, I was already thinking I might, I don't do a Whopper or a hamburger like that often. And they're like, order a Whopper. And then I was like, wait, this is McDonald's. And they're all laughing. They're like, because we had watched Food Wars on the History Channel. Okay. And so they, the Big Mac versus the Whopper. And so I'm like, oh, I got it. They're like, let's see what they say. So I was like, okay. So I pulled up to the drive-thru. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna do some smoothies, this, that, and the other stuff, and a Whopper. It's like, excuse me? I'm like, and then the kids thought I was gonna go to Big Mac. I'm like, yeah, a Whopper. Just kind of handed it up, and the guy's like, sir, I don't think we have those here. And I was like, oh, a Big Mac. And Nikki's like, you just kept a straight face. That was awesome. I'm like, hey, you guys asked it. So I do confess to my McDonald's peeps there in Central Virginia.
You should apologize for messing with their emotions.
No, he was a great dude. We actually paid it forward in that moment. It was fun. It was beautiful. But it was kind of my penance.
Guilt. You felt guilty.
But anyway, when you told the story I talked about, I had to share that here on air.
Some fast food stories.
So here's the thing though, right? The guy inside you, the responsibility, the initiative, getting outside of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. See, I think that's the other thing. Adulting is hard because it's outside of our comfort zone. Let me share a Zig Ziglar quote. He said, just when I was young, it was just like, wow. He said, life is tough. Period. Life is tough. But life gets much easier for those who are tough on themselves. Think about it. Going to the gym, eating right, lowering your tone when it's so easy to just go like, F off, dude. Nope. Lower the tone, right? Tough on yourself. Toughness, discipline. It's not easy, but it absolutely matters.
So we talked, as we wind this down, we talked about stepping up if you want to kind of achieve that next level and grow in adulthood and grow your career. We talked about some negative examples, right? Something's not going well, but I want to paint a positive light. Are you stepping up and maybe recognizing your peers? Because that can also have carry the same amount of peer pressure.
Wow.
Well, I don't want to step up and recognize my peer for something that we all are supposed to be doing because then they're going to think that I'm blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Get over that.
Yeah.
You're never going to advance yourself that way. Right. Go recognize your peer as well. Make it positive.
It's huge.
Catch them doing something right. And instead of being that peer, because trust me, from my own experience, if you're that peer employee that's always calling people out for stuff, they're going to be looking for every chink in your armor to bring you down. But if you're you call out, but you also recognize, you're going to be strong.
Wow.
And I always firmly believe that people will get promoted when everyone else on the team already views them as that leader. That's when you're going to get promoted.
A promotion should not surprise anybody on the team.
Should not surprise anybody on the team.
Oh, that was an obvious pick.
Correct.
They've already been doing the role. They've already been stepping up to the plate. They've already been doing
So leaders out there,
the hard calls.
Some coaching maybe you can give to your up and coming leaders on the team or people that have potential, or some tough conversations with folks who aren't stepping up to really dig deep into this with them and invest some time with them to help them see that they should put in more effort because it could be holding them back if they don't.
Yep.
So there's a couple takeaways here, I think. But yes, adulting is hard. I mean, good topic. I'm glad we came up with this one. You came up with this one.
Period. No, actually, Walmart did. I saw a T-shirt walking through Walmart. It had 1 star, had 5-star spots, but it had like 1 yellow, 1 highlighted. Yeah. And it said, "Adulting is hard. Would not recommend." Right. So I thought it was a good T-shirt for kind of the mantra of what we see in a lot of society. But
we just sold them probably a couple shirts.
Yeah. The link in the comments. We are not sponsored by it. We do not get anything. Receive any compensation from this ad. Let Let me end it by saying this. By doing the hard now, your life will continue to get easier. By choosing the easy now, your life will only continue to get harder. Think about it. You could apply that principle to investing. You can apply that principle to growth, anything in life. Do the hard things. Eat the frog first. Do the hard things. Embrace the hard things. Don't be afraid of the hard things. Don't try to find that comfort zone. Get out of it and go for the hard. And you'll find life will get easier. Andrew, life is easy with you, bro, because we've been through some hard stuff. And life is tremendously easier. So
all the gray hairs, baby.
Boom.
Remember, it's not about being right.
It's about being able to relate. Guys, share the podcast, like, subscribe. We love you guys. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.